talk about Thomas Malthus today, and I entitled this "Depression and Lack of Self-Control." So two of the main things as I read through Malthus that come to mind with that. Legacy. What will that be which we live our lives in pursuit of? Will that be what is remembered of us after our departure? I think of the story of Alfred Noble. Is it Albert or Alfred Noble? What's his name? Alfred? Yeah, the guy found the Nobel Prize. Do you remember what he did for the beginning part of his life? You ever hear the story of what he did in the beginning part of his life? He was the one who discovered dynamite, I believe. And he was known for his destruction. Anyways, one day he was reading the obituaries, and he noticed that someone mistakenly printed an obituary of him. And he read over the obituary, and in the obituary it said, here is this man, the king of destruction. He's known for making dynamite, for destroying things like that. And he said, this is not what I want to be known as. So he called and got it changed at the newspaper that he wasn't really dead. And then he founded the Nobel Peace Prize. Pursuit of peace. What will we be remembered as? The reason why I bring this up is because Malthus is still remembered to this day for his gloom, for his doom, and his foreboding in that same way. Is what you're doing and studying something you would be glad to be known as being for the rest of your life? That's something I don't want you to answer right now, but it's a question I think we should look at constantly. Malthus was willing to rebel. I really like the stories of his pink punk haircuts. I can picture it. You know, they always wore the wigs back in England at the time, and he did dye his pink sometimes. He was a punk. He really was. And he was also a party pooper, because the rest of the people at the time, they said, well, everything's going to get better. We're going to keep improving ourselves. Life's going to get better. Everything's going to be advancing onward and forward. And he says, maybe not. Maybe not. So he was rebellious in that way. I really like Mencken's definition of a Puritan. Did you read this? Did you like this? The haunting fear that someone, somewhere, at some time, may be having fun. I really like that. I don't think it's very true. I don't think it's very true to what a Puritan is, nor is it very true to what Malthus was. But it's an interesting perspective as you look at it. The main concept that Malthus opposed was presented by Godwin. Man is perfectible, or in other words, susceptible of perpetual improvement. We can perfect ourselves. The funny thing is, as I look at this tenet, this is still being taught and expressed today. Have you seen it? Have you seen this today? People continue to think this. If you look at what people think about the world today, they say it's so much better than it was. I asked the question of students last week, probably about 400 students, where would you be if you could travel any place in time? And I'd say 50% of them said, this isn't a big survey, but 50% of my students said they'd like to be in the future. Because it's going to be so much better then. There won't be these health problems. There won't be these situations. The governments will be run smoothly. People will be able to do more things. 50% of my students this last week had this same concept that Godwin had. Man is perfectible. Because trust is omnipotent, man could transform himself into a creature better suited for happiness and harmony with his neighbor. Every man will seek with affable ardor the good of all, the good for all. This is the idea that the more we're living, the more we're working together, the more we want to help each other. And Malthus says, maybe not. It was according to Rousseau's claim that society is the foundation of the corrupting power. The thought was this: people are basically good people. People are good people. It's only because society as a whole corrupts them. Basically, maybe the thought is, Adam would have been fine by himself. When Eve came along, there was two of them. You have a society and you get the problems. Okay? As man reached perfection, the abolition of governments, courts, crime, war, melancholy, and anguish. The argument was even that death and sleep could be done away with, because those were things that just weren't desirable. And so as we continue to perfect ourselves, we would naturally get away with, we wouldn't die, we would never go to sleep. And this was a prevalent thought. Now you say, boy, it's a little bit outlandish, but the same beliefs exist today. The same ideas exist today. The main issue was they said the more population you had, the more potential for happiness that you have. The decay of population is evil. Okay? The more population, the happier you can be, the happier you can possibly be. It's a sign of this perfection. The less people you have, it's evil. This is where Malthus really started to get fired up about it, though. It was a good idea to argue with these basic theories. Their concept of truth being omnipotent, is, yes, that's a good idea. Look back here, we said, the thought was that because truth is omnipotent, man could transform himself into a creature better suited for happiness and harmony with his neighbor. Okay? Well, this is true, that truth is very powerful. Truth is all powerful. I can agree with that. My thought, though, is that, one, is truth really what's inside of man? The assumption was that because of society is what corrupted the truth that's within man. Man's good, man's true, all these kind of things. Because society came along, that's why we have all these things. Governments, courts, crime, war, melancholy. But if man could just look inside themselves, you can see a little bit of Eastern religion coming through. If man could just look inside themselves, they could see this truth, and they would naturally better the people around them. My big problem with that, one, is that it mischaracterizes what the truth is all about. Yeah, truth is, but I don't know a lot of people that are completely honest. Do you? Is it whenever you see someone one-on-one, you talk to them and you naturally know they're honest and truthful? Every person you meet out there, right? It's just when they're together they lie. No! No. So, the concept of truth, even if truth is omnipotent, is truth something that's found within us? And I would argue that it's not. I think there's some... It's okay. The other question is, have humans truly improved their position? Should humans with their desires and sins be trusted to know their own happiness? The basic argument is that we've gotten better. We've improved ourselves year after year after year. And this perfection that's going on. But the question is that really happening? Is this perfection happening? If you look back 50 years ago, do you see it, other than World War II, that's afterwards, right? Okay. Other than that, do you see the world as being a safer place for your kids? I don't see that, at least in America and Europe, I don't see that. I don't see more safety. I don't see less rapes, less murders, things. I see the opposite. So I think there's very good reasons to argue against these theories. I think Goodwin's theories make some very big problems. I think Malthus did it kind of the wrong way. First one he wrote was an essay on the principle of population as it affects the future improvement of society, with remarks on the speculations of M. Godwin, M. Corset, and other writers. My first thought is that's a very long title. It's a very long title. And you could notice that about the basic writing style of Thomas Malthus. Thomas Malthus is he's a very literate man. He could write very well. I hope you noticed that. But he wrote he reminded me of someone that's doesn't condense the thoughts for the reader. He wants to get the thought out, explain it as quick as he can, and it's your job to follow along with it. In terms of modern academia, that's not ideal. Ideally, you want to lead the person step to step, allow them to understand each one. He trusted in the reader being intelligent enough to guide themselves through his lectures, through his arguments. What we trust in modern academia is that people won't do that, and we need to do that for ourselves. So it's a little bit different style there. It was shocking. It was shocking. It was definitely counterculture. I tried to imagine how counterculture would be at this point. It would be like someone coming up who's very well educated and saying,